Good evening. This is Wayne Viener along with Bruce Posner. This is an extra edition of Terp Talk. We're not usually on Sundays, but this is a special Sunday. Earlier today, Randy Edsall was let go by the University of Maryland. Here with some comments on that and his feelings around that is Bruce Posner. Bruce, where were you when you heard that Coach Edsall was let go?
Yeah, I got the general tweets, and I was at the Ravens game suffering through a disastrous loss to the Cleveland Browns. But it really threw me off, and then my phone exploded as you would expect. But it was kind of like a foregone conclusion. And I wasn't, you and me talked about it, and I wasn't really sure it was going to happen until I heard Randy blow up at that press conference yesterday, which he had every right to do.
That wasn't even the biggest blow-up anybody's ever had at a press conference. But
no, for Randy it was, though. Have you ever heard – I mean, I've heard guys interview Randy. It'd be so rude to him it was a joke, okay? And I never saw him, get upset like he got upset yesterday.
Right.
And you could tell it was like a culmination of what happened. And the weirdest thing about yesterday is sometime in the middle of the third quarter, when it was 21-21, did you not think, wow, if we can get through this game and pull the upset, that this might not happen? Did that occur to your mind?
Yeah, absolutely. We had found a spark that had been missing since maybe we went to Penn State and won, went to Michigan and won, and when the game was on the line, we had a bit of spark, and we had Ohio State there for a minute, and then we had some momentum, and even the guys who were calling the game, who seemed to be maybe a little more pro-Ohio State than Maryland, said, hey, Maryland has the momentum, and then, boom, it was gone. So Randy ends up was at 22-34. He did a lot of the things the university asked, but in the end, he just didn't win enough games to hang around.
Well, that's the bottom line. It's the bottom line that you have to win, but I don't think anybody was happy about the way the whole thing went down. And Randy comes out of it, though, pretty good as far as money goes. He gets the 2.6 in the remainder of this year, but it's more about money. The way he was left twisting in the wind was not right, okay?
Well, he was left twisting for a couple days. Kevin Anderson, I think, said it wasn't him, but somebody in the athletic department let the word out they were thinking of making a change. Where do you think well, there's one part, where do you think Randy's going to end up? But most Terp fans are want to know, what do you think of bringing Mike Locksley in as the interim head coach? And where do you see the trajectory of the program going right now?
Well, whenever you make a change, there's usually a turnover time, which is what I think everybody was trying to avoid. All right. And I think this thing kind of like snowballed with the way that Maryland was beaten the last three games. All right. Not so much Ohio State, but losing to Bowling Green, and then the way we lost.
We got West Virginia and then Michigan. When you say
look what that's turning into now, that Michigan team. Might they not be the top team in the country or one of them?
Well, Utah beat Cal. Jeff Goff didn't have the greatest game, 5 interceptions. But when you say turning the program over, Lyndon Johnson, who was the associate head coach and the outside linebackers coach, moves on. And a guy that you and I liked quite well, Fran Foley, director of football operations, both had long and deep ties with Randy. So Randy and 2 other quality guys leave the program today.
I loved Fran Foley, and I did with Lyndon Johnson too. I mean, listen, it does bother me that, there's a minor celebration out there from some of the Maryland faithful who do love Maryland. This is not time for celebration. This is time for change, and it's time to move on. But Randy gave it everything he had, and it just did not work out. I mean, it's pretty simple. Quarterback problem and, stuff like that, and it just did not work out. But no, there's no day to be happy. You and me both like Randy a lot.
We did, but the record just wasn't there and we moved on. So who do you have? I know we brought up some names yesterday. Might be more in the reach category, but out of the pool of what seems to be likely guys Maryland's going to look at, the Kirby Smarts of the world, Tom Herman from Houston, some other guys, who would you right now out of college-type coaches or guys employed in the NFL right now, who would you go with?
Well, I've talked about this a lot, and to me, the next hire has to be extremely high profile. We are now competing in the toughest college division of football, and you're competing against the Urban Meyers of the world and the Jim Harbaughs of the world. And Jim Harbaugh probably has to sit back and have guys call him as to who wants to go to Michigan now. And pretty much the same thing with Ohio State. We've not fared too well against Ohio State in our recruiting battles. And you throw it up with James Franklin as well. All right. We need a high-profile guy. We need, I've mentioned names to you, Eric Mangini, the guy from the Saints who's having a horrible year.
You mentioned Sean Payton, Pagano you brought up. One of the guys that we didn't bring up, that after reading all the traffic out there about Maryland, if we could get a hold of Bill O'Brien, who is now with the Houston Texans. He was the head coach at Penn State. He was on the staff at Maryland. He's been on Bill Belichick's staff. Guy has done both pro and college. Wow, you'd start to recreate in the coaching ranks what I had felt when there was Dean Smith and Krzyzewski, and then Roy Williams, Krzyzewski, Gary Williams, Turgeon. You have really high-profile coaches. This time it'd be on the football side.
Well,
God, this is a great rivalry.
Bill O'Brien did such an incredible job in the most difficult of circumstances at Penn State. And yeah, he is a high-profile guy, and if he's let go by Houston, but who knows if that's going to happen. It's too early to make like a call as to who you're going to get. My own thing is, in a general-looking atmosphere, you have to get a high-profile guy, not a guy from the Mid-American Conference, not a guy from Temple, not a guy – people of that nature. And there's no knock to Temple. I don't even know the guy's name. But I'm just saying, you have to get the most high-profile guy in the world. We're building a $160 or $70 million complex, all right, for football, for a lot of our sports. We're going to have the finest facility in the nation. To go along with that, you have to have the finest coach in the nation. And if you have to pay him serious money, then you have to do it. Or else what's going to happen, Wayne? The program will be mired in mediocrity.
Be right where we are. Okay, so the killer question, the big question is Maryland, in your opinion, because they didn't go looking for anybody yet that we know, do you think Maryland's ready to make that kind of move and create that sort of Dean Smith, Lefty Driesell, Krzyzewski, the three big coaches, and we get to be part of that? Are we ready for it?
Yes, I think we definitely are. And I think that, I talked to Kevin Anderson early in the year, and I said, it's hard to have expectations of Maryland being a top team in the country. We've talked about it a million times. And he said, Bruce, you're wrong. He said, we can do it. All right. And people say our stadium's too small. And that's not the case. It's not going to be easy to compete with these programs that are making $50 million a year. It's not going to be easy. But listen, it can be done. All right. It can be done. But it only can be done where you have a high-profile guy that is able to attract the top talent and has the coaching chops, all right, to make the big moves happen on the field.
That's fair enough. Now, one move in the background that Maryland made that a lot of people aren't as aware is Kevin Anderson brought in Damon Evans, who was the AD at Georgia. Georgia, big SEC power. He's dealt with a big football program before, so when people say that Kevin Anderson might not have gotten the hire right last time, he brought in internal help so he can make better decisions as we go forward. I think that's a good move for Maryland. I think Evans has been on staff for about a year or so, and here's hoping that we get it right this time.
Listen, we have to get it right. And Anderson, Kevin has to get it right. But I think there's a difference this time. when Edsall was hired, all right, and this is no reflection on Edsall or anybody else, Maryland did not have that power that they have now. And what's the power? It's Under Armour, all right? They didn't have that behind them. They didn't have the possibility of this $170 million complex that's opening up. I know I keep raising it by $10 million, but they didn't have.
Anybody who's built anything knows that $160 million. By the time you're done, it'll
200.
be 10. Oh, absolutely. Under
They'll
Armour's
be going back. They'll be going back to Kevin Plank probably 5 times.
Right. Under Armour's been Maryland's sponsor since 2005. They certainly raised that profile when Randy got here. That's when the uniform started changing. It became a lot higher profile.
Listen, and you asked about Locksley. I love Locksley. You know, he needs to be in this program, and I don't think he wants to leave the program under any circumstances, whether it says the same position or a different position. But he's the recruiter, all right? And every school has the recruiter. And Locksley's been look at the guys we brought in, Stephon Diggs. There was a lot of guys who Maryland hasn't had in the past. So here's the key, and Dwayne Haskins, of course. And now I read on Terrapin Times that they feel that if they could talk to Trayvon Diggs about becoming wide receiver, his interest comes back to Maryland. Is that correct?
That's what I've heard. I pass Avalon's practice about 4 times a week. I don't stop because I'm a booster. He wants to be a receiver. Maryland wanted him as a defensive back. So that was the rift there. If Locksley will take him as a receiver, maybe he can catch the ball. We need guys who are fast and can catch the football.
Well, we need a lot of things, and we need depth. We need talent. We need the offensive line. We need big guys. We got to stop losing some of these locals, which we talk about ad infinitum, all right? But that's the way it is. And to me, at this point, you need that high-profile guy to come in where guys are going to say they can't wait to come to Maryland. It reminds me of this kid, Herder, the 2 guard, that Turgeon just got to commit to Maryland. He said he committed to Maryland early because he didn't want somebody else to take that spot. That's what it's got to become like. You got to have guys who want to come. And this guy, Dwayne Haskins, if he's 2/3 as good as he's advertised, his attitude toward playing for the state school is off the charts. So, you know, normally you have something like this happen and you see the defections right away. At first glance, although it's early, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. Am I right or wrong?
From what I've seen, it looks like you're right. Maybe bring Locksley in the short term as the interim head coach. Is going to bring a couple more guys to Maryland. Maryland's got to find a way to keep them. I 100% agree. John Dunn, who's the actual recruiting coordinator and the tight ends coach, another bright offensive mind. I wouldn't be surprised if at least half of the staff that's there would stay under a new coach. We'll see what happens. Any parting words for tonight, Bruce, as we look forward?
No, it's not. It's a sad day for me because a friend of ours is leaving the university, and I'm just upset about that. But it's just the way it goes. It's just the way it is. And he's more than well compensated as he's leaving, and so be it. It's time to move on, Wayne. And the decision's been made. It's not our decision. It's Kevin Anderson's decision, and he made it. And just about all of his coaching decisions have been fantastic. We've been through that, and now it's time to get the guy that can take us to the next level in football. It's doable. It's possible. Is it going to be another 3 or 4 years? Yeah, it very well could be. But I tell you, after you watch what Jim Harbaugh's done at Michigan, it's staggering, and it's absolutely staggering that with basically the same guys, he's turned that team into a national power. That's the kind of coach. That's the kind of coach we need.
And I
don't know who it is. All right, I need people. All right, who I think could do it, but that's not my job. All right, that's not my role. But my role is, and I think yours is too, is to push for the most high-profile guy we can get. If he's out of college, great. If he's out of the NFL, great. All right? But he's out there, and, this is not something that has to be done in a day. This is not something that has to be done in a week. All right? If you got to wait to the end of the NFL season, so be it. This is a move because the program is in great hands with Locksley right now. We don't have to worry about, the team will be competitive and he will continue to recruit. But we don't have to worry, all right, that the program's not in good hands for the time being. But we do have to worry about finding the right guy. And it's
on that note, hey, we got football still in 2 weeks. One of the good things about this is there's still games to be played. No love lost between Mike Locksley and James Franklin as Maryland takes on Penn State in Baltimore, October 24th. Still don't have a game time. It's either 12 or 3:30. Hopefully we get a 3:30 start.
When did they announce that game time, Wayne?
That should be tomorrow. But for wrapping up tonight, Bruce, as always, say goodnight.
Good night, everybody, and let's move onward. And the past is the past, and it's time to move on and make this Maryland football program great again. Correct?
It's correct. Thank you. This has been a TerpTalk Extra, and we'll see you on Wednesday night on the air, CBS 1300, for TerpTalk at 6 o'clock. Good evening.